Good morning. Welcome to NewsWare's Trade Talk for Thursday, June 18th. Let's get into the action. Take a look at the S&Ps, which are higher. We're up 0.78%. We were up by actually over 1% earlier this morning, but we're seeing some positive reaction this morning. Tech stocks, AI stocks are pushing this market higher. I mean, yesterday, the Fed left rates unchanged, but they maintained a hawkish tone. But that wasn't really what spooked the markets. What really caused the markets to pull back was the changes that Chairman Walsh announced to, the Fed's communication framework, and he's seeking to make more changes to make the bank, the central bank more forward-looking in its monetary policy assessments. With inflation actually ebbing higher due to the higher oil prices, he wants to look past shocks in oil and kind of take a backward path and say, this is where it's going to be in the future. So, let's chop off that. And that way, he can get back to that 2% because that's really his goal. And he did state that yesterday, 2%. But in order to get there, he's going to have to change the way, inflation is calculated, which I think is what he's going to do here. You look at oil, and oil is resuming its downward trajectory. I mean, the peace accord, it lifts sanctions on Iranian oil, and think about it, increased oil flow from Iran. You got OPEC, kicking up their production quotas. This is all positive. We're going to see a flood of oil coming into the market in the short term. In corporate news, shares of Intel, they're popping higher. President Trump stated that the company's foundry operations will manufacture chips for Apple in the U.S. Meanwhile, Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, he gave an interview yesterday, and one of the things he said was, hey, price hikes are coming. It's really due to the rising memory costs. But he also noticed that he's willing to work with any company that's willing to expand memory production capacity. That's interesting because he could write a check for that. Shares of Meta weakening this morning. There's an FT report out there this morning saying that they could be considering a capital raise to support strategic initiatives, infrastructure investments, what have you. That's very possible for Meta. Separately, cybersecurity concerns remain elevated in the U.S. as officials reported nation-state hackers have exploited backdoor malware embedded in millions of consumer electronics here in the U.S. Corporate calendar day, we got shareholders meetings from BJ's, Delta Airlines, Mobileye, Mara, and others. On the earnings front, shares of Accenture and Kroger trading a little lower after their quarterly results. Next week, we got Micron earnings. MU is coming out with earnings next week. But taking a look overseas, and we're looking at the DAX. I mean, the DAX just turned green. I mean, it's flat to higher. I mean, it's up 8 points or 0.03%, but it's been lower all morning. But right now, it is ticking slightly higher. Gains in tech shares offsetting some weakness in financials and automotive stocks. The FTSE's getting hit. It's down almost 1%, 0.98%, down 102 points. Declining metal prices weighing on mining shares. Financial stocks, energy stocks are also trading in negative territory. But the CAC in Paris, it's only lower by 0.1%. I mean, banks are under pressure. Luxury goods stocks are delivering mixed performance. So it's a mixed bag in Paris. Asia last night was mixed as well. We had the Nikkei jump 1.65% with strength in financials and technology stocks. Hong Kong finished lower by 1.59%. The concerns of higher interest rates pressured the sentiment there. Banks, tech stocks, retail, energy stocks all moved lower. China, the Shanghai was down 0.43%. Technology stocks did post gains, but financial shares were weak. Chinese regulators announced support measures for startup operations in emerging tech and future-oriented industries. Now, Chinese markets are going to be closed this evening for the Dragon Boat Festival, and the U.S. markets are also closed tomorrow for June 19th, a holiday. Turn it over to oil, and oil is dropping again today. We got WTI at $75.18. That's down 2.10%. We got Brent trading at $78.38. That's down 1.47%. Listen, a gradual increase in Iranian crude is very likely. Iran exports about 1.7 million barrels per day despite the sanctions, but with full sanctions relief, they could add an additional 1 to 1.5 million barrels per day. EIA came out with their stock vols report yesterday, showing a much larger than expected 8.3 million barrel draw. Those levels are getting critical over there for the stockpile data. Okay, let's turn our attention over oil for a second. We're going to start off with Accenture, ticker ACN. I mean, the stock's just getting smoked this morning. It's down over 13%. They beat by 9 cents, but it was done on lower revenue. Street didn't like their report. Then you got Kroger, ticker KR, Kilo Richard, which is down 2.94%. They missed by a penny, but it was done on higher revenue. And next week, the big earnings report coming out is Micron, MU, releasing earnings next week. In terms of economic reports, today, we got jobless claims at 8:30 a.m. It'd probably come in around 220 to 225. Okay. Also at 8:30, you get the Philadelphia Fed Manufacturing Index, and at 1 p.m. you get the Baker Hughes rig counts a day earlier due to the holiday on Friday. In terms of news hitting the tape on FANG stock, CEO Tim Cook gave an interview to the Wall Street Journal, talked about price increases and the willingness to spend money to ramp up memory production. Amazon may face billions in penalties from the FTC, regarding misleading advertisers. Google, Waymo recalling 3,800 robo-taxis amid software issues. Meta Platforms, Financial Times wrote a piece indicating a capital raise of tens of billions of dollars is likely for Meta. Tesla, Elon Musk boosted his voting power in Tesla to 20%. He turned some of the stock options into stock so he can vote. He can't sell the stock till 2028, but he now has, some additional voting power. He's at 20%. He wants to be at 25%, is what I've been reading. Dow Jones 30 News, Apple raising prices to offset costs of memory and storage chips. Verizon put out a new loyalty program, removing activation fees and device upgrade fees. President Trump's out there saying Apple agreed to work with Intel to design chips. In terms of merger news, Accenture ACN takes a majority stake in cyber company Dragos. In terms of guidance news, ACN narrows its full year 2026 EPS. They're at $13.78 to $13.90. Street has it at $13.85. That's okay. Kroger, KR, they reaffirmed their 2026 EPS view of $5.10 to $5.30. Street estimates have it at $5.24. It's okay. On this calendar today, Cheryl meetings, BJ's, Delta Airlines, Mobileye, Mara, they're all known. But one interesting one is Dana Shipping. Now, they raised their offer to acquire Genco Shipping to $27.34 a share. GNK is having a shareholders meeting today. Could be something there. Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about today's pick of the day. I'm going to go with DoorDash, ticker DASH. David Epple, Sam Henry. Okay, the prospect of lower oil flow, lower oil prices is really the positive here. And, you look at yesterday's call volume, 38,000 versus 5,000, very positive flow. Open interest, 125K to 69K. I mean, that's positive. And the major brokers, they got price targets well over 200 on the stock. Now, I do think we're going to see a little, I'm preparing for a little morning weakness, so I'm going to say a price target between 163, 164 type area. It depends on how it opens, but that's kind of off from where it's trading now. But I still think we're going to have a good movement today in DoorDash, ticker DASH, and that's my pick of the day, DoorDash, DASH. Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about the news that's hitting the tape in the last 15 minutes or so. ALIT announces a 1-for-20 reverse stock split. Abercrombie and Fish, ANF, they teams up with Target. That could be something. Allstate reports May pre-tax catastrophic losses at $289 million or $228 million after tax. It's not bad. Merck says FDA approves one of its drugs. That's good. Pfizer CFO Dave Denton to step down. What else we got here? Alibaba expands cloud infrastructure with new data centers in France, Japan, Malaysia, and Mexico. Bird, B-I-R-D, continues its transformation from a shoe retailer to an AI service provider. Johnson & Johnson CEO yesterday said they're staying out of obesity drugs to focus on cancer. CME to sue commodity regulator over perpetual futures. That's our business. Large U.S. banks will formally pitch the central bank on tweaks to the Federal Reserve proposal aimed at reducing the funds they must set aside to absorb potential losses. FDA is set to the advisory panel is set to vote on whether the benefits of Moderna's flu vaccine outweigh its risks in older adults. That's all I'm seeing this morning. Okay, now we're going to move on. We're going to talk about yesterday's pick of the day, which was Humana. I mean, it just didn't work out. The market just tanked and it was negative before that. I mean, I thought with the lower entry price, I'd be able to pull out that gain. It just didn't work. Humana was a miss all around. All right, traders, that concludes today's podcast. You guys know what to do. Let's go out there and let's make some green.